what I'm saying is someone's still gonna win, and it might be if
I know
half the field, just about half the field is playing badly, with golf, you can easily say, oh, the course must be hard. They're all playing bad. You know what I mean? It all kind of comes back to earth a little bit.
Sergio has been like, I can't wait to leave this place. Rah, 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 rah.
Yeah. Well, I must say that little extra in that new intro, that's what got me. Welcome in, as I have a frog in my throat. It seems to be always the case. Welcome in Tuesday night, 8 o'clock here. It's Divots and Pivots, and we have just some exciting stuff that we're going to try to calm ourselves, slow ourselves down to talk about tonight, because I think both of us have been looking forward to getting on this show tonight all week since we were out on the international. At the international course this weekend. So we're going to have stories for you from there, but we're going to talk about some PGA relevant stuff first. President's Cup is coming up. Some picks will come in, so we're going to get Bud's thought on that. But first of all, speaking of Bud, welcome to the show, Bud Copeland.
I just like how excited you are about the new intro, because I was too. I didn't know you were going to snip my little. Okay. First of all, I've come a long way since that clip. Not on Sergio. I still think he can be whiny sometimes. But on LIV, and I'm not going to say I came full circle, but I have expanded my vision, so to speak, to include it. So you're right. That was a phenomenal weekend. We're going to chew up on that for a while. But first and foremost, thank you so much to my beautiful and lovely wife, Allie. It has been 8 years. She is currently upstairs putting the kid down while I'm here doing this with you. So if you find one that does it like that, keep them. And then thank you to you for tuning in, for helping us out, for seeing what was going on in the Divots and Pivots belly up sports world. I'm having a hard time not going straight into, you already said it. You already said the international, You already kind of exposed yourself.
We got to tease it a little bit.
Yeah. There's tease it, you definitely teased it, but let's do it real quick. The PGA Tour is still off, but like you said, international news with Trevor Immelman making his picks, his six picks. He was supposed to only have 4, but with Cam Smith and Joaquin Niemann going to LIV, that opened up a couple other spots in the President's Cup. I do think that kind of will get resolved by the next time I don't know if by Ryder Cup for next year, but definitely by the next President's Cup. I think they'll have this whole thing resolved to where international players are going to be able to get in and not be shut out just because they're participating in LIV. But in the meantime, we do have these 6. And it's funny, you read the coverage and it's like, who the hell are these guys? It's like the intro to the old Major League movie where you're just reading names off going, what? But those of us in the golf world know that these guys are no joke. It's like there's only a couple hundred people on planet Earth who can play golf at this level. And so they're still in there. So it's going to be a show, and careful what you wish for with the whole, we're going to, beat the hell out of them. Look what we did to Team Europe last year. And, they've lost X, Y, and Z. Well, so did we. We threw some of our guys over to LIV for a little while, and they're not going to be participating. But the 6 that were picked up, it does kind of give the feel of a Hoosiers mentality here, where you've got nobody really inside the top. Like, I don't know. I don't want to misquote myself, but the average world golf ranking of this crew is wildly out of whack in proportion compared to the Americans. Yeah. And the Americans hold an all-time 11-1-1 record. So even Trevor Immelman said, like, nobody's got any kind of, not grandeur delusions, but it's like, heck yeah, we're just going to own the underdog mantle. He won the Masters as kind of a quote unquote nobody. You're coming out of nowhere. Before that, Trevor Immelman won the U.S. Public Links. He's come a different kind of direction. So he's got that little bit of dog in him. And also, he's going to be a familiar face for the next foreseeable future. With Nick Faldo stepping aside, Trevor Immelman is sliding into that NBC booth. So there's reasons to pay attention to the President's Cup news. We're not going to get into any more specifics than the picks are in. You can Google them and check it out elsewhere, because there's more interesting things to talk about here. Such as, and this is a nice, soft, subtle transition away. Subtle as a chainsaw, touch of a blacksmith. But the DP World Tour, the griping's continuing. It must be something in the Spanish, because no, not as bad. I don't want to shit on John Rahm. He's delicate. He's a good guy from what we can see, but they're not. Him and Billy Horschel have been quoted today, and they're not happy about the LIV guys being there. I want to give them a little bit of kind of communication advice in the sense of the reasoning they're giving is not something that I can connect with, because they'll say things like they're only here for the official world golf ranking points and no other reason. They don't support the DP Tour.
It's kind of how these guys advance in their career. All of them.
You're just here for professional advancement.
Who's not there for the points? I mean, come on.
So that's where I want to be like bottle that up, because nobody gives a rat's rear that, you can say things like your presence here takes away from the overall mission of DP World Tour and yada, 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 if you want to be a company guy. But now I think we're starting to see some of that next level, next level emotion where these there is a little personal animosity. I get it. I don't think it's jealousy, because when you're talking about a difference of millions, what really, I win a tournament over here, I get 4. I win a tournament over here, I get 2. Yes, I know that's a difference of 2. I can do math, but point being, there's different prestige carry. I think there's just you lied to me, buddy. Like, you told me you would never go. And to that, I
had said that like weeks ago too. I alluded that might be the case. And I think you're right. I think that still stands true, that there is, sure, you can say it's business decisions, but we don't know what these guys are saying behind closed doors in the locker rooms to each other or whatever. I'm sure there has been some false truths between these guys.
False truths? What are you, a fucking Gen Zer? Pardon my language, and pardon all the Gen Zers out there. We love our Gen Zers here on Divots and Pivots. I think the best, Billy Horschel, and I want to circle back because I included him not just because he's chirping the guys. He gave one of the best reactions, I think, and if you can go look it up, when he was asked right after the Tour Championship, what happens if Cam Smith leaves? Everybody knows he's leaving. He gave, and I think that's why he gave the sincere human moment of, I love that guy. I love that kid. He's a fishing buddy. I'm not going to see him as much. And he didn't mean I'm not going to see him as much because I'm not going to hang out with him. He literally meant he's going to go back to Australia for weeks at a time. He's not going to always be there at, outside of Ponte Vedra Beach and ready to go toss a line. And that was kind of the human moment where it's not jealousy. It's not animosity. It is much more of a F the situation. This sucks. Like, I can't hate you for doing what you're doing. I can disagree with your reasoning. I can disagree with you doing it, but I can't hate you for it. And so I think that's where that gets channeled for these guys into the interviews about like, well, they're only here for the official world golf ranking points. Well, yeah, they need them just like you need them.
Where's your publicist when you need one, right? Jeez.
Thank you. Keep your mouth shut, because those kind of comments, I'm not a lawyer, but I watch Suits a lot. And those kind of comments are the kind of things though that you can point to and go, see, they are a monopoly. They are antitrust violators because they want to just without even regret, they want to unabashedly shut down competition. So good thought exercise for the people at home. We got back from LIV Bolton. It was dope. So there's your PGA Tour and DP World Tour.
And before we go full LIV though, there are a couple other kind of housekeeping things we need to touch on here. First of all, how have we gone just about 9 minutes into the show here and not mention the fact that are we wearing the same damn thing right now?
No, I was getting into that because I was just looking. There we go. Now we are. Holy shoot. This is a University of Georgia Bulldogs 2021 National Championship shirt because unless you are, I don't know, if you're listening to this show, then you sure as hell knew that they won handily. My little brother-in-law sent me a picture. He bought a shirt. It's like an old Duck Hunt styled from Nintendo games. What are you wearing? Just for the viewers at home. So Boudreaux's in.
I'm just wearing a plain red athletic.
Oh, it
shirt.
is red though.
It is red though. Yeah, so it seems like we're having some coloring because both of ours look orange right now. And then I know this is so interesting for you guys to hear us talk about how our lighting might be making our red shirts look orange, but
well, no, lighting's important because when you go to Mahler Brothers and you start getting your golf gear and your golf apparel, you want to make sure that if you want an orange shirt, you're getting an orange shirt. You can trust the guys over there. That's for damn sure. I'm saying don't trust me if you say, is this shirt orange or red? Because God knows I don't know.
And you said it. You said Mahler Brothers, and then look, you can see there if you're watching on YouTube here or on Twitter, because we are live on Twitter tonight as well. The new logo in the top left, right, however you are choosing to look at the screen right now. Marla Brothers Golf Apparel and Gear. So they are a new affiliate of the show here. We are so excited to be partnered up with them. I was just talking to those guys earlier. Look, you got to go on their website. Let me get you the exact URL. I should have had that ready. That is a shame on me, but I don't want to get it wrong. But when you go to their website, you check out their golf shirts, their polos, their gear. Look, their shirts look awesome. It's simply malabros.com. My favorite thing about their shirts, though, I don't know about you, I love the two-tone look, but like that old kind of baseball look. Where, remember the old Anaheim Angels jerseys with it was like the vest shirt and then the separate color sleeves. That's
I remember the old California Angels.
Okay, well.
I'm such a jerk. No, but that's the point. I remember that old school look.
The two-tone color though is what I'm loving, and then when you mix in a solid color with either a paisley design or you get the digital camo looks on there, they have some awesome fun shirts. I'm about to get put an order in for a bunch of them. I can't wait to wear them out on the course. So check them out, malabros.com.
Is it Div Piv? Is that what we're looking?
Yeah, it's live now. I was just talking to them before the show. It's live now. You can go and make a purchase. Use the discount code as all of our other sponsors, as Piper Golf.
Can't wait till stuff comes.
Div Piv DIVPIV for a 10% discount at checkout. So go to malabros.com and get yourself some new shirts. They got some hats on there too. They got some drinkware. They got some koozies, some tumblers. So they got a bunch. They got some
drinkware.
I think that's how it is called on the website. Drinkware, yes. Drinkware is how it's called. So, yeah, they got a little bit of everything on there. So definitely check them out.
Grandpa Bud over here doesn't know what it's even called anymore.
And I think, actually, the other cool thing I thought they had, I believe.
No, you keep going.
Yeah, they have T-shirts, too. Yeah, because they have the T-shirts, too. They got some fun T-shirts. So definitely just go check out their full catalog. I love it. I'm going to buy pretty much half the catalog, I think, in this first order. So, let's just say good thing I don't have a wife watching my bank account anymore.
Wow. So, which is good because then you can spend the rest of the money on Piper golf balls when you go to piper.golf and you decide to pipe it with your blue balls, because I know you lose them all the time. Piper Gold, I'm on hold right now because I'm not on hold with them. I'm saying I'm on hold on the game. I split my finger wide the F open.
Oh, you did? That's a good one.
It's a good one. Last night I was doing dishes, sitting there thinking about LIV and all the things that LIV brought us. And as I was reaching for one and the other, sliced it wide open. It was a scary mess. My kid, it kind of scares me. I think my daughter might be Dexter. Just started laughing. She was sitting there and she goes, "Ouch, Daddy, ouch!" And I've got like all down my arm. This is great golf talk. So yes, thank you to our friends at Piper Golf. Thank you to our friends at Marla Bros. Thank you, as always, to our friends at Belly Up Media, and thank you to our new best friends over at LIV Golf. That was it. It was golf, but louder. It was golf, but different. It was golf for a different crowd. And I'll say this before going further, because the Divots and Pivots podcast is here for golf. If there's not LIV, we'll find something else out there to talk about golf related or not golf related. Sometimes we pivot. It is football season, and we will have to talk about
I do have a draft coming up in 45 minutes that I keep forgetting about.
What pick do you have in this draft?
I will find out. I don't even remember, so you can keep talking on your point. I will find out for you.
The people want to know, Andrew.
Oh, I will let you know, but
I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
While I look it up.
But the LIV Golf, before we go any further, this isn't an argument to say like LIV's going to take over the PGA Tour. I think in the last 72 hours, I've been talking to anybody who would listen, which is a limited group, but they're a dedicated crew. And we were just chatting over the weekend at various birthday parties, and even at like I was wearing a LIV Golf t-shirt this morning at daycare drop off, and somebody was like, "Were you at the tournament?" I said, "Yeah." They're like, "What'd you think?" We chatted for a couple minutes about it. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to overtake the PGA Tour. And for any external third party arguments that are brought forth regarding funding or associations X, Y, or Z, or fair labor practices, that's not what we're here trying to portray. There's some folks online trying to chirp us about certain things and bring in some geopolitical aspects to the conversation. And it's not that those aspects don't have merit. They do. That's just not the conversation. I mean, listen, you're listening to a guy named after a duck and a guy named Bud with a crooked tooth talk about golf. We're not trying to solve geopolitical problems here. Again, doesn't mean that those points aren't valid and those conversations don't have a place. I just don't. This isn't where we're going to do that. It doesn't mean we can't. It doesn't come into play every once in a while, because it did over the weekend. Like people would say, how'd you square your soul? Blah blah blah. And I would just kind of laugh and say, same way I guess the other couple thousand people there, and the children, the babies, everybody. It was a family affair. It was the closest thing to a football tailgate that I think I've experienced in a while outside of like a county fair. And it was less cheesy than a county fair, less sleazy than a European nightclub, but just as much fun as both, and kind of had the vibe of both, with like food trucks and a neon indoor golf center for the kids. And everywhere you turned, there was some way to kind of chip in, pun intended, for charity or some kind of competition. And I've got a seriously strong, I could take my hat off and show my age, or I could tell this quick story. So I was talking to my wife Friday morning about, I was so excited. Like, I'm pumped, right? I dropped the kid off at daycare. I'm coming home and I'm like, all right, I love you, hon. I may or may not ever be back, because somebody's going to pick me up and I'm going to go to the big time. I'll send you a postcard. And she was just like, make sure you grab diapers before you come home. And on the way out, and she's like, what is this whole thing about? So I gave her, as I was getting dressed, kind of like the quick rundown. I go, and at the end of it all, I was like, it's like a party. They have concerts going. I said, somebody named Diplo is playing Sunday night. I think he's local, because they're trying to drive up, that kind of local flair. And she shoots up out of bed and she goes, excuse me, what? And I was like, yeah. She goes, who's playing? I was like, St. Lucia or whatever. And she's like, no, another one. I go, Diplo? And she goes, okay, Gramps. And she like pulled out her phone and she turned on, this is where she turns on the television Roku from her phone, which was also Witch Doctor magic I didn't know existed. I was like, you don't even have the remote control. And she's like, it's Wi-Fi, Gramps. So then she just presses play and I look up and it's this song that I definitely recognize. And I see it's like, oh, Diplo, Skrillex, and Justin Bieber. I'm not a fanboy of Diplo. I just was pointing out that they pulled this international flair because it did feel like a world stage kind of event. So that the vibe was definitely overarching. You feel what they're going for. You get it. It's not disrespectful to traditional golf. It's different. They're not trying to recreate what's going on elsewhere and sell that. They legitimately, I kind of use the analogy of what happens when some billionaire, don't you like some billionaire? I always have some billionaire as my variable. That's my X factor. Some billionaire is going to swoop in. Deus Ex Machina. He's going to just come in and drop a couple bills on this idea, which is what happens when 3-on-3 basketball is taken off in popularity more and more. It's in the Olympics now. I don't know if it's a medal sport or it's just a kind of an exhibition sport, but it's huge. It's 3-on-3. So what happens when somebody steps forward, maybe in a couple of years? Maybe a Chinese billionaire. Let's just go ahead and use that kind of, not apples to apples, but we're kind of more paralleling the analogy. Some Chinese billionaire company says, we want to create a 3-on-3 league. Hey, LeBron, KD, and maybe James Harden. You guys, definitely world-class. At any given moment in the last 10 years, one of you can probably claim mantle of best in the world. Yeah. You definitely have, right. You definitely have a handful of years left in the tank in the NBA. Or why don't you come over here to this new 3-on-3 league? We're going to double your pay. We're going to play half as many games, and you're going to be able to play for probably another 10 years instead of another 5. And all it takes is one. This whole effing thing pivoted when DJ came out, not Phil. Phil was the first through the wall. He was the kid. He was the kid in the D-Day boats that had to take those first rounds.
But Phil was already kind of gone. He was already made his way to the Champions Tour, and like he was already half in, half out as a regular PGA level player. Right,
and so it's that same kind of mentality. It's like LeBron says, "No, I'm here. I'm NBA. I'm Wilt. I'm Larry. I'm Magic. That's me. That's my legacy." And so there you got your Tiger. And then you got somebody else saying like, nah, I'm going to stick, maybe it is Kevin Durant, who's kind of like that, next wave. Great. That was my wife going outside. That was my wife going outside. I love you, babe.
I thought something broken
happy
here.
Happy anniversary. So then you got somebody coming over there saying, sure, I'm going to do it. And you got 2 teams. So all you need is 6 teams to run this league for 1 year. And the first couple rounds are at like high school gyms, and they do pack out, but people go, it's high school gyms. And then finally those 6 teams, they've got an all-star on every team starting, and they pack out bumfuck arena in small town USA, but it holds 12,000 people. And it's like, oh, now we're seeing something. And it was, LeBron hitting a 3 at the butt. So that's what happened this weekend in Boston. You had a world-class elite athlete in this sport make a world-class play to win in the last minute.
That eagle putt.
And it had to go in. It was going 20 feet by.
Oh God! If that hit was even just like a half an inch to the right or left, that thing
I would be shocked if he was thinking that too. Like, I'm either winning this thing right here, I'm going to F home. I don't need this extra couple mil.
That thing would have slingshotted right around that hole. Probably would have hit a fan because the fans were standing right up on the green, because that's how close LIV lets the fans get to this play. That was a hell of a shot.
And what's funny is a couple days earlier when I was there, you were there over the weekend as well, but I was only there for Friday. At the end of the day, we're sitting at the press conference behind the country club adjacent guys. They were fun guys. They said hello, or they said hello. They were like, "Oh, are you the guys from Divots and Pivots?" No.
I went up and said hello,
right?
Because I was like, I'd have to. You guys. Well,
no, they're and the questions they're asking, not only at the presser, but the stuff they're doing, it does expose the side of the game that so many guys out there, and girls, pardon me, so many players, so many golfers out there are exploring, which is, we didn't like the pressure of playing it this way, but we like the sport, so we're going to play it this way. We are going to have a back off challenge. We're going to shotgun beers. We're going to play music, and we're going to treat the cart girls with respect. But that's my favorite. That's my favorite meme out there. So at the end of day 1, we're sitting there at the press conferences, and at the end of it, I look to my right and I see a super uber over like a familiar face to me, ever going back to like high school or really it was high school and college.
Oh, yeah. This was your one fanboy moment of the weekend.
Biggest fanboy moment. And it's not that I didn't enjoy seeing the other guys and interacting and accidentally telling Patrick Reed go Dogs after he's had a checkered past with the UGA team. But I felt bad about that one, actually. I was like, go Dogs. He kind of lit his eyes. He was sitting on the back of that little cart and he just went.
And to your credit, you did apologize out on his way into the scorer's tent, and he seemed fine with it. He
was totally cool.
He seemed so chill about it.
He goes, "Oh man, I don't give a fuck." And he patted me on the shoulder, and he just goes, "You boys having a good time?" I was like, "We're like, yeah." He's like, "All right." And he just kept on walking. Like they were really dope about it. So, anyways, as soon as everybody was done, I looked to the right, and there was former White House press secretary Ari Fleischer from 9/11, from George W. Bush's early days. And I kind of had a fanboy moment, and I was just like, holy
fair
crap.
Enough. He probably deserves to be credited with one of the most amazing press handlings of an event in history. The way he handled 9/11 for that White House, like,
oh, for sure.
You should go down in history on how it's done.
You know what I would love to ask him if I could have gone back and actually asked him real questions instead of fanboying out, is what would that have been like in the internet age? Because that was pre-social media. That was, we did have internet, and we had websites and everything, and Google was a thing. But so anyways, I looked at him, I said, "Excuse me, sir." I said, "Is your name Ari?" And he goes, "Why? Do I owe you money?" And I was like, which was pretty funny. I was like, "Holy shoot." And I didn't say shoot. I said, "Holy shoot." I was like, "You are." And I said, "What are you doing here?" And he said, "Of course, he does communications consulting." And so he said, I work. And he kind of looked around like, "What do you mean? What am I doing here?" And I was like, "Of course." And so
we should have done our homework, I guess. Whoops.
I can tell you right now, truth guy. Ask a lot of people who is the consultant.
I never would have thought the people like in those positions would have been out there. Like,
well, you think about what is his skill set, and what are some of the biggest kind of hurdles, obstacles out there for LIV, which is PR related in the sense of how do you overcome X, Y, and Z, which would love to have asked him. But instead, all I asked him was, what do you think? Are they going to make it? And his answer was phenomenal. He goes, "Well, what do you think?" And I was like, "Oh, you Socratic mother effer." But he was very kind. He spent I literally he stood there for about 5 or 6 minutes with us.
Yeah, we talked to him for a little bit.
Yeah, and he chatted us up about how he does think, and this is back to the point, everything comes full circle. Bud doesn't just run it off the rails. He just derails and then comes back. he did say, I think we've hit critical mass. I mean, and you can't kind of quantify that in any traditional business sense, because they're not trying to make money and revenue. They're trying to
be fair,
present a product.
You're not using critical mass in a way that this is their peak and they're done here. That's not the way you're using critical mass here. Just want to make sure that's clear. That's not what he meant.
No, it's that like kind of like in social media speak, they've gotten enough clicks to finally make their way into the next level of the algorithm. Like they've made enough imprints and impressions, and they've signed enough talent, and they've laid out their schedule for 23, and they've got things lined up. It's trending in the direction they want to go, which is fun, because that was kind of all he said about that. And then he allowed, I say you also as well, just allowed me to kind of fanboy, ask a lot of questions. It was incredibly nice of him to give us that little bit of insight about what's going on with LIV, but then be a fan and be kind of that guy.
Well, here's what's interesting about that kind of idea of them reaching that next level is that, so from this Boston event might have been, and I have to look at the attendance to see if it actually was, but I'm going to go ahead and say it might have been smaller physically than some of the other events in ways. But I think it was a very important event for them because they managed to convince a crowd here in New England that tends to be a bit more traditional in many ways, so like religiously, socially. Yes, Massachusetts largely liberal if you want to go on that side, but in a way, they're still the people here, including me and you as a transplant, tend to hold on to traditions and routines more. And if they came in here and they managed to convince a crowd of people to do something different with something that has widely been one way for a long time. 50 plus years, golf has been played this way, golf has been viewed this way, golf has been competed this way. And they came in here and said to this very kind of old school kind of area, we're going to do this, and it was embraced. So I think this was kind of a big event for the LIV to say that, we can take that next step, because if we can convince them, why not other areas of the country? Why not other areas of the world? This could take off if it could take off in New England, because it is a very old school kind of feel for a lot of things like golf.
I see what you're getting at. And also to piggyback that, to that point, next slide, please. No, but honestly, what you were getting at, I didn't know where the hell you were going with that. And then as soon as you landed it, it kind of really does dovetail into something I was reading about, which is not only is there a passionate sports base and full of tradition here, we have a long memory. I say we because I am you just said it. Welcome. I'm what I call born again New England. Yes. I've been up here long enough. I get to claim it. Mostly because I don't think the South would take me back at this point.
No,
but back in the day, there was an annual golf event in New England. Now, yes, we've got the Travelers, but specifically to the Boston area, we used to have the Northern Trust. We had the Deutsche Bank. We had the BMW for a hot minute.
All the same tournament, just a different name, but yeah.
And so, what's his face over at Fire Pit Collective, and not Shipnook, but one of the other writers, was talking about how Boston and Chicago specifically are two strategic markets that don't have an annual event anymore, because Chicago used to have the Western Open, and that was a big deal for the longest time. And now they don't have anything coming in, year out. And you do think about the missed opportunities there. And I really think they saw it with the US Open this year at Brookline, how much that, it does. But you had to have a place like Brookline. You couldn't have had it at a no name or a new place in New England, because then you are coming in, right, to replant the flag and say, New England golf is just a little different. It's a little more, it is a little more traditional now. So where LIV came in, it showed you can still play traditional backdrops and everything, but Joaquin Neiman and Taylor Gooch were both like, it was kind of upsetting there wasn't more music. Like, at Bedminster, they had speakers on every hole. Here, they did have them strategically placed. We found out there was a shortage of volunteers, shocker. But Bolton's tough to get out to. I mean, it wasn't exactly accessible. Especially if you didn't know
tough to get out to. There was people there on layovers for the weekend specifically just to work the event before on their way to other events.
Shout out to Michelle.
And I know you, and I'm bringing that up because I know you wanted to bring her up, so I'm gonna let you talk about her.
Okay, so if you've ever seen on a golf tournament, there's the people who right before and after players hit the ball, they're holding up the signs that say "quiet, please," or they're flagging which direction down the fairway it's going. some of them are called hole captains or whatever you want. But Michelle was the hole captain for the tee box on the second hole. It's a par 3, 178 yards downhill. It's where Matty Wolf got his hole in one. We were right there. It was crazy. But we made friends with Michelle shortly after that because we realized this is going to be the spot. We were parked right under that camera. And so if you saw anything from that camera angle, that's who, that was us sitting right there. So we made friends with Michelle. Her husband was down at the green because they've got people at either end kind of doing the things and, letting people go to the different roped off sections and coordinating traffic, which somebody forgot to do early on. And Paulina Gretzky almost ran Andrew over and he didn't recognize it because he was busy chirping Cam Smith. Hey Cam, do you have the best mullet on tour now? And Cam was laughing at it.
I got a little smile out of him.
Yeah, there was Paulina almost running into him like, oh, excuse me. And she's like, it's fine. And then DJ walked by, hey babe. And Andrew's like, did you see him say, hey babe?
And that's when I turned and went, oh, okay.
Yeah. She was super sweet. I guess the Irishman we talked to, I got pictures with her. Yes. But anyways, we were talking to Michelle. Michelle and her, she's. I'm not going to give away the lady's age, even though she gave it to us. We're gonna respect our sources and their integrity. She's retired, and her and her husband were on their way to a wedding, but they're not from the area. They're from Pennsylvania, so they decided to drive to Boston, volunteer at this event, work the event, and then fly out to Wisconsin. So we really hope the wedding went well. Michelle was a sweetheart, and she did a wonderful, wonderful job handling the crowds there.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And you brought up the hole-in-one was, look, the crowd, the atmosphere was fantastic, and was fantastic for that moment for Matty Wolf. It really turned his round, and I say turned his round around. It was like his third hole of the day, but it set him off on a good round because I think it like you alluded to it in the moment after he hit that, you could see the weight come off of his shoulders because look, he had after the year he had last year, he had some expectations to hit this year, and I think a lot of people would say he probably didn't hit those expectations this year. And that's us in the media, that's on behind our keyboards. It may be unfair, we don't know all the circumstances, but he probably didn't do as good as he thought he was going to do as a whole this season. So I agreed with you. It seemed like the pressure just came off him in that moment. And you can tell with the way he played the rest of the round. And it was just a fantastic time to be there really everywhere. And look, there was some, you mentioned the music. And I think one of my favorite quotes of the weekend was from Joaquin Neiman, who said that it was like the course had a heartbeat out there. And that's what I found interesting because to me, I was trying to think about, okay, so what's the difference then between, because they always step back when they hear crowd in the background and whatnot. And what they said in the press conference was that, they know the beat of the music, the song, they know what's coming. It's predictable. It's known, like it's comfortable. It's those jarring noises that aren't predictable, that are unexpected, throwing something away in trash, a cough, a sneeze, whatever. Those are the ones that mess up their routine because they don't expect it coming. And I found that kind of explanation of the difference just to be very interesting. It made a lot of sense.
Oh, for certain. And I mean, I'd second that. It's no different than the guy you're playing with music right now. Shutting the music off would mess with you. Yeah. I was grinning there because the analogy to the music being the heartbeat of the golf course, a real snarky PGA Tour response would be our 50,000 fans are the heartbeat of ours. You're right. It's that. And to that end, that explains why going from 0 to 50,000 in the drop of a putt has a similar effect that like kind of high pulse music would have, where it does keep you going. So that's that. I enjoyed the music myself. I was just kind of thinking to myself, that's twice of myself. That's three times using the same word in like a 7-second span. I abhor that. I was just thinking, how does that translate over into what's going on? How can they kind of counterpunch any differentiators? But I think the counterpunching's going to stop soon.
I think so too.
Well, because you're going to have LIV with a couple more. I think they have 3 more events, and I think it's 3.
They have 3. They have Bangkok, Jeddah, and then Miami. Oh no, 4 because they have Chicago too.
4. They got Chicago.
So Chicago is not this weekend, but the following weekend, and then they go over to Jeddah and then Bangkok, and then Miami rounds out the season. Yeah,
and so they're going to have 4 more and people like us nothing else to chew on, because we will pay attention to the President's Cup. But with all the new stuff that the PGA Tour has already announced, it is going to be kind of hard to get pumped for $1.7 million purse at the Sanderson Farms. Not nothing against Sanderson Farms. We love our friends at the Sanderson Farms. But the money aspect of it, I want to address for a second because Pat Perez, friend of the show, he gave us a couple of thumbs up and fist
I'm
pumps.
glad you're about to bring this up.
First of all, his lip, his big old. I mean, I
Oh,
don't.
that's not a small pack.
I dipped with guys in high school. I used to dip it, and I did with guys in high school who have multiple first names, then a middle name, and then a last name, and they wouldn't horseshoe a can the way that this guy was, which was just so funny to see because I wanted to be like, buddy, you know, take. But then again, hey, whatever. But his chirpy little response to a good question from a reporter / whoever, I think it was a reporter, who just said, you know, what would you say to folks who kind of talk about this is not an actual tour? And there were so many ways that you could have diplomatically addressed it. And Perez went for the quick 1-2 and thought that he had a snarky response and said, exhibitions don't pay $4.75 million. And everybody, like,
and then you stop and think.
And I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? That's exactly what exhibitions do.
Look at the match. The match that has gotten so popular. That's exactly what the match does.
That's like, because I mean, I'm not saying that there's not ways that I just want. I mean, like, dude, that's a dumb answer because exhibitions, by definition, only offer money. And you say something like, "Yeah, well, exhibitions don't offer this level of prestige with a purse." You see the fact that we're you know, we're more than just money in exhibition. You got to talk. I mean, there were so many other ways, and I thought you can't like you're trying to flex on the money side. And Rory said it earlier. I'm going to repeat it. You offered money to people who already have it, and now you're trying to use money as leverage to make a point in front of people who don't have it.
Yeah,
it's like, read the room, man. Like nobody thinks that. I don't think you being rich is cool. That doesn't make my socks roll up and down.
No.
You know, I would have loved much more if he would have been like, exhibitions don't offer this kind of sustainable income. Exhibitions don't offer this kind of crowd support, partnership, you know, longevity and financial security. You know, exhibitions don't offer me a team atmosphere like this where I can contribute and lean back. Like so many other ways to be a little humble about it, but trying to flex on what DJ won.
Yeah.
Not you. Now he got paid. Homeboy got paid because everybody's getting paid. But that to me was one of those moments of like, oh, cringe, man. Exhibitions do pay. They pay a lot.
And coming from Pat Perez, who, as we now see from the money earnings, is only making money because he's being carried by the three-peat four aces team. Because if you saw, he's made roughly $550,000 as an individual with his finishes and his play so far, but he's made like 2.275 from team earnings, and it's like, come on, man. Like, you're not the one that should be talking right now.
Are you calling him like an NFL punter?
No.
We're not going to shit on punters.
We're not going to shit.
We love you, Pat McAfee.
Well, exactly. We are big fans of Pat McAfee. So.
Oh, homeboy! I remember, God, years and years and years ago, but even before he did his cup of coffee with Barstool, listening to him when I was driving around California, slinging textbooks for Pearson Education. #grinding. It was an awful experience, but it had nothing to do with. Anyway, back to LIV. So we talked about. So real quick too, I think one of my favorite moments was where I got to park, because the GPS. And this is just, thank God you called me though. Like I would love to. You could have just chuckled and been like, "Huh, I wonder if he's going to notice." But instead, you called me right before I was about to
made you ride that shuttle back with me the first day.
So there's this overflow lot that Andrew ended up parking in, and then taking a shuttle, which I mean probably wasn't a huge deal, but at the same time, as I was approaching, he calls me, and I'm approaching this, like, the course is out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, you have to go through bumfuck just to get to it.
If you watch, the drone footage wasn't an added bonus; it was a necessity, because the international is in the woods.
Yeah,
it's wooded golf.
And by the way, Joaquin Neiman pointed that out when he's like, "I love this course," because, and they weren't just trying to kiss butt. I mean, some of them probably were.
I think they had to play the game differently.
That's what he was talking about. He's like, because you could watch. We watched a couple of tee shots, sail, just missed the green by maybe
Mhm.
3 yards, but they hit an embankment and out of bounds. I saw more guys re-tee with provisionals than I think I ever have. And it's because they
Mhm.
were short spotters and they were on a tight course. So getting out
Sure.
there, I saw the highway patrolman, and so GPS was trying to take me right to the clubhouse because that's what you plug in, and that's what it says to plug in on the
Mhm.
email. And on the way, I was like, oh, he said he's parked out there. I'll just go there. I start seeing signs for it when I get into Bolton. And right before I see this long line, I was like, oh God, it's gonna suck. Andrew calls, hey, I just reread, come straight to the clubhouse. No problem. So the first road that I try to stop at, the cop was sitting right there, and I just kept driving. I was like, oh, GPS will reroute me. Sure did, to another one where there's a cop. So I pull over and I was like, listen, I said, GPS take me to the clubhouse. Do you know where just kind of like the general parking or the media parking is? And he goes, well, which one, general parking or media parking? And I was like, well, I guess media. And I show him my little thing. He goes, yeah, it says right there, media, which thank you once again to Belly Up and Liv for letting us go out there. So he goes, for certain. He did not say for certain.
Day one for
he
that
said,
cop, and he already had an attitude.
he was great. He was awesome.
I'm
He was so
kidding,
funny about it.
yeah.
He's like, buddy, go. And they pulled back the little thing. I drive up, and then they check the credentials, a couple more times. And sure enough, like right there was one for the players, one for the media. So it was great parking. The media setup was wonderful. The food was great.
Yeah.
And they gave us plenty of accommodations and room to do what we needed to do. So thank you so much to the LIV Communications team for both inviting us and letting us have a good time and learning a lot about the LIV Tour and what's going on out there. I'm done with my plug for them. So
no, but still, because speaking of the LIV Communication team, like they read the room, they know their audience, they know what they're doing. I'm just before you get to move on to the next point, I do want to bring up. So the second day they allowed shorts, and I went up over, it was at the range pre-round, and I'm walking around and I saw the two ladies that I recognized as the communications team. So I went up to them and I said, I just want to ask, like, why pre-round, like why mid-round, not mid-round, why mid-tournament did you change the rules? Like, why not before? Why not after? And I put this out on Twitter, but their response was just so, like, it really spoke to me about what their goal is here. Like, they are here to disrupt the traditional way of golf, and not in a bad way, but they're here to disrupt it, to bring it to the modern era, I think. And because their answer was, we're nimble, we're flexible, we're a startup. If we wake up today and decide today is the fucking day, we're gonna do it. And that's what they did. They just woke up. Greg Norman, and didn't even wake up. An hour after play finished on Friday, Greg Norman drops that video, which I'm pretty sure the second play finish, he went over to them and said, hey, let's do this. And we're going to go out there, and someone probably shot it with a phone. And they shot that video of him changing into shorts out on the course. And
my only problem with that video is he used the word official twice. It's official. We're the first professional tour to allow shorts during play. Official.
Yes.
It was the Dodgeball Association of America. Other than that, I thought it was awesome. I loved the we wear short shorts thing about it. And it was again, we're not grasping at straws, but we're creating storylines. Like you said, they're creating disruption. They're a nimble startup. And DJ, some of the players, they were asking about it. And sure enough, DJ was like, yeah, it's cool, but I'm not going to change this week. Some of the players were talking about texting and, in their group going, are we going to change? Are we wearing shorts? And I guess DJ was like, we're wearing pants. I'm not big on changing my routine mid tournament.
Yeah, he said I'll be wearing them in
Bangkok. I'll be wearing them in the future. Yeah. Like that kind of thing. And I do think it's cool. I do think it's relevant. I do think it speaks to the next
just to
question.
Give the option.
Right. Why not? And then do you draw a line? Like what do they, if they're in Saudi Arabia or somewhere over in the Middle East or even in Bangkok and it gets to $127 on the course, shirts off? Like, are we
I don't think they'll go shirts off. I don't think that'll happen.
Don't be such a stiff. Don't be such a traditionalist.
Wouldn't bother
Let him
me,
breathe.
I don't think it would happen. Is what I'm saying.
No, I don't think it would happen either. You do have to draw a line though, because Tiger's even pushing it with his mock turtlenecks over the years. Those things are basically t-shirts at this point. It's just a crew neck t-shirt. But I want to be the guy or woman who is sent to to say, excuse me, Mr. Woods, you are not dressed appropriately for the occasion.
Yeah, you need to promptly leave the clubhouse and go home and change.
So speaking of being told to leave the premises, when we got out to the range, it was funny because as we were approaching the player walkthrough, it was like a tunnel, and like there's people leaning over to get autographs and like fist bumps and stuff, not from us.
They were all there for us,
and they were absolutely there. We had
so many Divots and Pivots fans in that line.
I saw more belly up tattoos. No, the
you know what's great about our logo is it fits perfectly around your belly button for a tattoo.
Don't say weird shit. So the walk out there was like going through a kind of a tunnel, an autograph tunnel. We get out to the end, and I'm glad you scouted it out because I would have taken the sucker road and gone right up to where the rest of the
I was out there way too early.
Right. And and as evidenced by, we get out there right up on the rope and we pick out a position that's a little further away from where Phil and Troy Mullins was over there interviewing Phil, and then Bubba showed up later with his gear and was interviewing Sergio DJ. We were over towards the end where Hudson Swafford and Niblix and those guys were going to be warming up. Yep. And I'm not going to lie, we probably stuck out because sure enough, within about 3 or 4 minutes, this guy on the other side of the ropes comes walking over, and he said his name was Bob. Yeah, Bob.
We'll see if that was actually his name. We would never see, but it probably wasn't.
1,000,000% that is not.
Although I did sit. I saw him the next day when you weren't there, and I said, "Hey, Bob, how's it going?" And he answered immediately. Like he turned around, like his back was to me when I said it. So maybe it was his real name.
Bob, if you're listening, give us a shout. At Divots and Pivots at the Spuds for you. Yes. Anyway, so Bob walks over and starts chatting us up. He comes up with, he says, "Oh, is your badge just say Medina? Oh, it says media. Oh, I thought you boys were Medina. Maybe you're from Chicago and come in here to scout." Andrew,
looking back now is such a lame excuse.
I love you. I love you.
Look, it takes me a few seconds to catch on to things sometimes.
Well, I mean, in Medina, yeah. And so, but he was super nice, and he was very natural, trying to chat us up. And meanwhile, there's probably somebody on the other side of his headset, like looking up our names just to make sure. Because sure enough, after about 5-10 minutes of talking to him, I was like, "So, Bob, when you're out here and you're scanning the crowd, what's kind of a flag? What goes off that you're like, I need to go check this out?" He's like, "Well, I'll tell you what. I'm on the lookout for guys who kind of walk right in, acting a little too smooth, like they belong here, and maybe they don't."
Which I took as a compliment.
So I go over and I chat them up and I make up a story to kind of introduce myself and blah, 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 blah. He's going down this road. And Andrew finally goes, "You're talking about us, aren't you?" And I got to say, I don't know if you knew this, but Bob and I shared a moment there.
I noticed.
We both connected eyes and smiled and then looked at Andrew. We're like, yes, he's absolutely talking about us.
I 100% noticed.
But then this is what I loved about Bob, because we were like, "So did we pass?" That was you pivoted real back to like, "Well, and I was like, "Yeah, I think we passed. I think they would have had us out of here a long time ago before Bob was inviting us to stay on his couch when Liv goes to Chicago."
He did invite us to his basement. That's true.
But then to his credit, he was like, "Do you guys mind if I just hang out down here with you? You're much more entertaining to talk to than the other folks." So Bob hung out with us for a while. Yeah. We went out and did our thing. And then 6 hours later, as the last group was coming up to the second hole to tee off, which was, I think, Harold Varner, the third, and Patrick Reed, and that group.
Sounds about right, yeah.
But because HVC on his way up, he was like, HVC, HV3.
Woo,
HVC. He needs to get an HVAC sponsor. But as he was walking up, he said, and I don't know who he was talking to in his group or in the crowd, but he's like, "That's what I love about it out here. I can talk shit to whoever I want to." He's like, "I can talk." He's like, "These guys, those guys," and one of those, "these guys, those guys," he was pointing at us.
Yes.
And he, and he kind of gave us the "sup fellas," like that, like head nod with his big old, and
yep.
God, I saw more guys chew than when I played travel baseball. And then what I loved was
all the caddies were smoking. All the players were chewing. All the caddies were smoking.
Heaters. It did. At moments, it felt like 1967 golf again. But it was in that moment that we hear, "Hey!" And it was Bob. Bob was on the security detail for him. And he came straight to the back of the tee box and chatted us up. So if you're out at LIV in Chicago, go find Bob. He's a great dude.
Yes.
He'll be on the range, and then he'll be with probably I got to imagine a guy like Bob, you only put with top tier talent. I mean,
I would think
That's
so. And if he seems like he's talking to you for a little bit, you might be looking a little sketchy.
Thank you, Andrew.
I can't.
So Bob,
awkward.
Bob was dope. I got to say, speaking of Harold Varner III, between him and Bubba Watson and a handful of others, there's a lot of Jumpman logo floating around LIV, which I found interesting. One of the things that happened when some of these players, the early players, DJ Brooks, Bryson, they came over, and a lot of those sponsors went, oh. Yeah. Now whether that's the right call, you do you.
They didn't go too far. Don't worry.
Boycott.
I think it was. I shouldn't say that much. I think it was TaylorMade, but I saw it. I might be wrong. But I saw a name brand, big like 5 brand hat with Saudi Golf on the front of it. Like they all had. Some of them have embraced. I want to say it was TaylorMade, but I could be wrong on that. So please don't quote me on that. But like.
I wouldn't be shocked if there's golf.
The sponsors are going to come back.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be shocked if there's golf clubs over in the Middle East that have apparel partnerships and whatever. I mean, like all that. I'd be curious. We probably should go back and look at it. The sponsors that did drop, and because one of the players pointed out, I think it was Bryson, did the math, and he's like, some of these sponsors that have jumped ship on the guys that went to LIV do X $billion of business every year in Saudi Arabia.
Exactly. It's so hypocritical.
Well, yeah. And I hate using a word like that, but I mean, that's what it describes, because you got to think, what do you draw a line on? What are you here for? And you talked to him more than I did. You said you got a little bit insight on the protesters were even they showed up to Boston. They were in Bolton. What was the beat on that?
So once again, because both days I was out there way earlier than I needed to be, but I went in with the idea that I'm going to be here for 2 days. I'm making the most of these 2 days.
He was out there for you. He was out there humping the hills of the International, which
I'll tell you, Saturday I damn near collapsed. My legs. That is not a flat course.
I do want to hear what because I intentionally tuned you out earlier. I said, don't tell me about it as you were telling me about it, because I was like, save it for the show. I like to actually hear about these things new sometimes. But quickly about why I'm so impressed that it went out there day 2. Because I asked one of the photographers walking around, I said, where does this rank? He had all his gear on. So where does this rank in kind of courses and how hard they are to walk in your travels? He goes, Bethpage Black's probably the only one that's harder. And I was like, whoa,
which that's like saying something.
He's like, I mean, the players were getting rides between some of the tees and everything like that. So it does beg the question, will they come back to the International again? I don't know. But if
they get too big for it, honestly, at some point, like that would be maybe I don't know. You don't know.
I think they will. So when you were out there early for the people, because you are the voice of New England golf,
trying.
When you were out there, what did you learn? Who'd you talk to?
Yeah, so there was a statey just kind of hanging on one of the holes right near where the fans come in from the main general parking lot, and I just asked him. I said, "Hey, like, I'm just curious because I people were wondering, are there going to be people protesting this?" And I asked, like, are there protesters? Where are they? How have they been? And he basically just said, oh, yeah, like minimal. He goes, there's maybe like 10 to 20 of them. They stay in their assigned kind of dedicated spot. They're older. They hold signs. They are respectful. He goes, they take breaks and they sit back and they like have some lunch, have some water. He's like, yeah, so there's not an issue at all. They're doing it right. And it's like, I'm not surprised that there were protesters out there, and I'm glad that the protesters that were there did protest in the way that was meant, like kind of in the Constitution, like the right to protest. It doesn't mean you can do whatever the hell you want.
Peaceably assemble, to peaceably assemble.
Reasonably assemble, and that's exactly what they did. So, like, I'm happy that they got that chance. I'm happy LIV provided them that opportunity to do that, and I'm happy that the two worlds coexisted.
Kumbaya. What else? So we talked about Bob. We talked about the shoe game. The Jumpman brand was kind of, I mean, FootJoy was the leader in the clubhouse. The unofficial tally on shorts to pants day 2 after the announcement, 19 players were in shorts, 29 were in pants. So I got a feeling definitely timing of the announcement impacted that, because guys like DJ tipped their hand that maybe they would have packed some shorts or they'd be willing to change. So
Well, and I believe it was Joaquin, was it Neiman, I think it was Neiman who said he just simply didn't have any clean shorts. He would have, but he just didn't have any clean ones.
Yeah, these guys,
because he wasn't, because they weren't prepared for this. The players didn't know it was going to happen, right? I think they knew it was going to happen eventually, but they didn't know it was going to happen that day. So they weren't really all prepared for it. I expect more in Chicago.
I was disappointed in the merch, but I also believe that they can only go up, right? Like, I think I like the logos. Some of the logos need work. The hats that they had couldn't get a good fit. Then again, I've got a dome. I mean, I'm like first team all domer over here. I've got one of those flex fit hats right now.
Because I saw a lot of fans wearing their merch out there, wearing team hats. I actually saw a group of fans that were all wearing matching Fireball T-shirts.
Oh yeah,
and one of the ladies was actually like, "I forgot my shirt," and her friends were like jokingly giving her a hard time for not, doing like dressed like the rest of them. And yeah, you got some merch that you picked some up. It was. And that was the other thing that we said, is that it was very clear walking around this tournament that what they were going for was extremely clear, and the fact that the team logos were everywhere. The flags, they were posted on every grandstand, every media tower, like everything. It's clear what the LIV Tour is and what they're going for.
Bubba was there not as a TV announcer. That was what he was doing on course coverage, but he was there as the quote unquote team captain for the Niblix.
Which is a way I think we could see more flexibility with the amount of guys that are on tour. We've talked about that before. If there's more than 48, maybe some of these bigger names take a step back in a tournament, are a captain, but are on the course kind of either coaching or doing media insights,
So I'm interested to see how this plays out. I was thinking about this earlier today, the team concept you brought up, and how it was very much they're pushing it out there because they really want to show they're trying to create a kind of NASCAR meets English Premier League format of individual franchise teams that are part of this league. And so when it comes down to rosters, are they going to do this thing where teams can sign, there's only 4 players, and I love the whole format of it's 2 scores. And then on the third day, I think 3 scores from your team count to go towards the team competition. And then in the interim, in between, these guys are free to go play Asian Tour events. It sounds like they're free to go play wherever. There's a bunch of them playing DP World Tour. Definitely if the PGA Tour opens back up down the road, maybe. But I also don't blame the PGA Tour for saying you have a completely different product that we think is a different product in a different way. So we're not gonna cross pollinate with you. Now, whether that's wise in the long run, who knows? Well, time will tell.
Yes, sure will.
Yeah, we'll see. I just went through a big change. I just went through a really big change in life right there. Yeah.
All right, we're clipping that. That's your new intro moment on the podcast. Yeah.
Rocket like you own it.
I'm kidding.
He likes it. But the team aspect of it all, are they going to allow to have are we going to be trading players? Is Dustin Johnson going to wake up tomorrow morning to a text that says, "You have been traded to the Niblix for Hudson Swafford and 3 Corn Ferry Tours to be played."
We can finally say in a bag of balls.
In a bag of balls. You've been traded for 3 range tokens and a head cover. But is that what they're going for? Because a soccer player can be traded between teams. I don't know. Can race car drivers be traded? Can owners trade?
I don't think that's how that works in NASCAR. I don't think, but I'm not a NASCAR expert, so I don't know.
No, I don't think you can actually trade drivers. But will they create that model though in the LIV golf world, especially when you consider the whole trade aspect would have a lot, I think, less strenuous impact, because you're not asking. It's not like trading an NFL player where all of a sudden all right, well, now my kid's got to get it. Golfers are by nature vagabonds. So again, DJ could wake up to find out he's on the Fireballs next week and he'd be, "Oh shucks, I really like being on the 4 Aces." But the checks all clear the same, and he's still going home to Pauline at the end of the day. So
I'm not gonna lie, I just got the crap scared out of me because my draft just started on ESPN, and the big ESPN noise just blasted in my headphones. That's why I looked as crazy as I did there for a second.
Is that why you derped?
And we
So
never circled back. I have the third pick.
What are we looking at?
Which I'm on the clock right now, apparently. So,
Let's do it.
So Eckler went first.
Austin Eckler?
And then Jonathan Taylor. So I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey. That's my first overall pick. Oh, my first overall. It's number 3 overall pick, but my first pick.
So over under 11 and a half games before he gets dinged up.
Oh, sorry. I had it back. Jonathan Taylor did go first. Austin Eckler went second. I was looking at the log upside down.
So Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey there. I needed to switch it up because I had the third pick in another league, and I went Dalvin Cook because McCaffrey wasn't there. Dalvin Cook just went at number 5 overall. Not surprised. But I wanted some CMC.
I am so bad at fantasy football.
Then you need to turn into my content this year. Just saying.
I'll tune into your content. I'm just not playing the damn leagues.
Okay.
That's not true. I mean, one of my buddies.
Wow.
One of my buddies from my quote unquote other fantasy league. He runs like a simple pick'em, and I do enjoy that because I'll sit there and just check boxes against the spread all day and not care. Especially like you throw a couple $100 or whatever up front. A couple hundred. My wife just heard that. She's like, "Excuse me, what?" No, I think it's like $20 up front for a chance to win a couple hundred.
There you go. Yeah, good cover.
Ooh, happy anniversary, Bay.
Happy anniversary.
All right, so we've covered Bob, we covered Michelle. We definitely talked about some of the player interactions. Matty Wolf's ace. I will say so. When you see it online and you hear that the wolf howls, and you hear that the wolf howls of the wolf pack,
which was also a funny story, but I'll tell that after you're done.
I was about to say they were standing right next to us. Matty Wolf turned around. He looked right at us, gave us like a fist pump and like, "Oh fuck yeah!" Then he started just going down the line, and you could just tell he was the happiest he's been in a long time, and it was really cool to see in person. But the kicker came when like the group, well, then Lee Westwood steps up and he sticks it to 4 feet.
Yeah,
that was one of those. I was like holding on. I'm like, no,
ice in his veins.
Well, those guys do this for a living. But it was great. That group had just left the tee. They're on their way halfway down the hill. And here comes back some guy holding drinks going, "What did I miss?"
Yep.
And it was the guy from the Wolf Pack.
It was one of the guys,
You should have heard him too. They planned that for a solid 10, 15 minutes because there was a gap between groups, the way that they were staggered and the walk from the first green to the second tee. Sometimes they had to wait for the 18th tee off. So there was always this long wait, and they had been
some of those holes were far walks for those guys.
They were like, "We're going to howl when he gets here. We're going to howl like right after, like right before he tees off. Then we're going to howl after he hits." And it was kind of cute to watch them coordinate that. And then it just get dunked. And there were like little kids there. It was dope. That was something we heard from kids as well, which was the difference maker for them is other golf tournaments that they've been to. It's always shh, don't know, just stand there and be quiet and shh. And they said that they're allowed to kind of have fun here, quote unquote, or they liked the music, or it felt like, the players were going to interact with them a little bit more, which that to me is an individual kind of thing. I think it just depends on the player because I don't think that's like a tour specific or a tournament specific detail there. I think players are going to interact with the crowd or not. There's some of them, they thrive off of it. Others, they need to be, they need to have their blinders.
Been the way. Yeah. I think more guys are going to feel more comfortable to do it on LIV, but I think players have always interacted if they've wanted to interact.
So if the PGA Tour, and I'm going to say the PGA Tour and other major world tours, because let's be honest, they're all carbon copies of the PGA, 72-hole events, blah, blah, blah. If they could take something from LIV and incorporate it that would have kind of a positive, beneficial outcome, what would it be? What do you think that they could take from LIV and say, give this a shot, it won't disappoint?
So I'm going to start off by saying I don't think it's the team aspect. I'm not even convinced the team aspect is there to stay with the LIV. I think that might be something temporary. I'm not sure it's going to take off, especially if the 4 races just keep winning. And what DJ had alluded to on the second day in the press conference was that, there is politicking behind the scenes for these teams to where basically if 4 guys agree that they're going to be on a team together, then they don't have to be part of the draft. And that's what the 4 races have now done. Pat Perez, Taylor Gooch, DJ, and who am I forgetting? Jesus.
I don't know. I'm a Niblet guy. You're the 4 Aces fan.
Oh, I'm not a 4 Aces fan. I'm just saying they're the ones who keep winning. But so there's already like that kind of politicking behind it to where they've already decided we're gonna play the 4 of us.
They've built in the NBA super team aspect. Are you on the clock again?
I am. Yeah. Sorry. That's why I
no. Do your thing.
I took Mike Evans.
I disagree that the team aspect's going to disappear. I think it'll just get amalgamated to maybe. Like you said, they'll either say this is baloney. We're going to have now you can't have these blind drafts though. If we start going with this team format where I own this franchise,
correct.
And I'm not going to invest unless I can, kind of have consistent players and consistent, expectations for performance. So I think the team aspect will stick around. Okay. I think it'll just be much more of an annual thing where it's going to be the offseason politic. It's not going to be week to week. The draft really might go away, and it might just be because we're going to lock in our 48. So you brought me back to my point, and we'll lock in my 48. But as a team owner, I have 6 people on my roster because I know injuries might happen, or hey, conflict of interest. I don't know. I don't think there's any conflict of interest when you're making this kind of money. They say you show up and do your damn job. Yeah. So, but for the sake of injury or flexibility, maybe you're allowed to have 6 players, and you say, so-and-so, I'm benching you because you average 272 off the tee, and, that's 280 to carry just into the fairway at this course, or, this is your home course. And so I'm going to let you play instead of this guy. I could see that kind of flexibility being built into it to just eliminate with what you described, which is what's going to stop everybody from just kind of feeling out their way until you get 2 or 3 super teams. Well, they'll just stop to say, hey, team owners, go create your super teams. Or they might just do a season draft at the beginning to say in year 2, we're going to do a draft at the very beginning. And then we're going to literally from a lottery, we're going to pick out, or we'll say maybe the top 4 point winners from last year get to be the first 4 captains. We'll draw straws for the others. We'll have a draft, and that's your team for the year, because I don't see that being a long-term hurdle. I see it as an easy fix.
Yeah.
Who'd you go with? People want to know.
Oh, I said Mike Evans. So Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans. Oh, I'm sorry. I was on the clock again because I was on the turn. I took Breece Hall as my second running back.
Okay. Will you pick a quarterback?
Well, I have to pick a quarterback.
Do you? No, I don't. Shut up. Like I was in a keeper league recently where especially it was you were responsible for starting a quarterback, but you did not have to actually have one on your roster after the draft.
Oh well, sure, yeah, but it'd be stupid not to have one for sure.
My brother-in-law won the league. He's a wicked smart engineer type. He won the league one year. Get out of there, bug. He won the league one year without a quarterback on his roster after the draft. I remember he picked somebody up on waivers the week of, and he just continued to do that.
That's not going to work in these days of fantasy anymore, unfortunately.
No, not at all.
Quarterbacks get way too many points.
So will you do DFS and whatever? How many leagues are you in?
So I'm in my personal home league, and then I'm in the Scott Fishbowl League. And then this one is another kind of community. This is called the Fantasy Football Premier League, I believe is what it's officially called. And it's set up to where it's a bunch of viewers and listeners. There's different divisions. And if you are in the bottom 2 at the end of the year in your division, you get relegated down. And if you're in the top 2, you get relegated up. And it's fantastic. I love it.
I want relegation in every sport.
I agree. I love relegation. So yeah, that's fun.
That's what they're doing with LIV. You get relegated to the Asian Tour. So speaking of, we talked about Bob. We went through the players. Concessions were okay. Again, that's a movable feast, pun intended.
But the pricing
was good. The pricing was good.
It was fantastic.
$5 for a tall boy bud, $7 for an IPA. And I think yours was 18 ounces. Mine was 24. So, I mean,
something like that. Yeah.
Solid beer prices. Again, when you're operating not with, much profit or even revenue in mind. You're just kind of trying to get the product out there. You can get away with that kind of stuff. And last but certainly not least, there were no dearth of kind of broskies out there, but I would say my favorite two guys were, it was Gavin and Davey from Ireland, who were standing behind us on the second tee. Yeah. And at one point I just turned around and I finally went like, where are you all from? Like, where are you boys from? Because obviously, and one guy looked like Liev Schreiber. And then the other one like looked like he was ham dog, but he wasn't. I could tell. And they both just kind of stone cold. And they're like, Boston, why? And I was like, come on. I was like, play along with me real quick. And then they looked down and they saw my little badge and everything. And I think they lightened up slightly then. And then also I just kept on going at it. 30 minutes later, we're exchanging phone numbers. And at one point we were telling them about our brush with Paulina. And one of the Irishmen just pulls his phone out and he holds up a picture of the two of them together, the selfie. And we were like, what? And I guess he snuck one with her. And then she turned around and was like, you can just ask, which anybody rolling their eyes at it, it's like the whole experience was meant to be, look at these really, really, really super over the top good golfers playing right in front of you, and look at these, like the celebrities watching, and this and that. So it was definitely shiny and new. I would definitely do it again. Yeah. I don't feel dirty after going. I will say,
I'm thinking of going down to Miami, honestly.
You just have to set your expectations. What are you going here to do? Are you going to have a good time and watch world-class golfers compete? Now, the end of that sentence is compete for what? We'll see. Right now it's for money.
Yep, right now it's just money.
Maybe year 3, then it's the LIV International this, the LIV International that. Who knows? Maybe it's not. But as far as, was it worth it? Abso-freaking-lutely.
100%.
Like that's 100%. 5 stars. Recommend 4.5 stars. I'm sure I could figure out. Oh, there's my half star.
What?
They didn't have paper towels in the men's room.
Oh, yes.
The media center the whole time.
And then, and then the next day, for the most part of the morning, both the bathrooms in the media center were, at least those two that we were right by, they were closed for cleaning, but they were closed for like a long time.
Do you think people were in there doing drugs?
No, I think they were probably.
I didn't want to speculate that. I was just like, took a dark direction. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to watch. It's gonna be fun to watch LIV develop. We're gonna be paying attention to it in the coming weeks and months. Lord knows, there's no dearth of good storylines to follow with LIV every week, kind of announcing something new. And now that these players are together at the DP World Tour, now, granted, it's not unheard of in sports to have players not like each other. I mean, Exhibit A, but you also don't have, the Packers and the Bears sharing a locker room pregame or halftime, so I can understand that. There's also, I saw somebody chirping, and this was one of the big time Jays out there, was trying to kind of shame the DP World Tour, saying, telling these guys that they're not welcome at the Pro-Am isn't really a punishment, and telling them they're not allowed to do, it's not really a punishment. And I wrote, maybe they're not trying to punish anybody. They're just trying to make smart business practice, which is, we're not going to say you can't be here, but we're not going to promote you because you're chief proprietor for and all I could think was like, that's the most diplomatic solution, which is, yes, you are allowed to compete in this tournament. It's like when I went to the University of Florida for grad school, and like, I'm wearing Georgia gear. One of those says Georgia, the other says Florida, but people will be like, oh, you went to Florida, you Gator now. And I was like, listen, I attended the university for academic purposes only.
Yeah.
I did go to a tailgate here and there. But it's the same thing with these guys going to play in these other tours. And I think it'll eventually get there. That doesn't mean that the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour have to make spaces for these players.
Yeah.
But if they do qualify through, some backdoor way where maybe they do win a major, then what are you going to do? Say, sorry, we're the Players Championship. Is Cam Smith allowed to play in the Players next year? He's the defending champ. I know he doesn't hold status on tour, but he's the defending champion. He has an exemption that everybody else is supposed to have. So at what point do they not have a case, in court? I'm going to be curious to see how this plays out in court, because they do kind of have a case for some of the things they're claiming. Again, not a lawyer. I just read and listen to what those people say. And a couple of lawyers out there are saying, I'm not going to say they're going to win, but there definitely is a case to be presented, which is going to start the conversation. So I don't know. And I don't even think LIV golfers know what they would want in the end, because they sure as shit are not going to have their cake and eat it too. I don't blame JT and the boys for saying, no. You're not cherry picking our events and then going over there. But the coexistence is going to have to come into effect. I love what Bubba said. If Augusta doesn't want me back, because as a former champion, if they don't want me back, then I don't want to be back. Like that's because at what point does it become too much? At what point do we just turn into a society of, all right, before we go any further, I need to know who you voted for, what brand car you drive, who you did this with. At what point do we allow all of those things to become kind of prerequisite for existence? It can get too far. I hope it doesn't. I don't think it will. And after being out at LIV, it does seem to me that it's mostly on the Twitter sphere and in the locker room.
It does,
because
feel that way,
quite frankly, I'll tell you what, everybody who was out there was probably watching the Tour Championship the weekend before. They're probably going to be tuning into the President's Cup. They may or may not ever tune into another LIV event. I will, because the YouTube coverage was great. And David Fetterty, I really wish I would have. He was the best. But to wrap up my rant, coexistence is the goal. I think it's the goal for the players. I think it's the goal for everybody. Anybody who wants to chirp somebody else's goals, to Greg Norman saying, I want to grow the game, and people over here saying, get off my lawn. That's not how you grow the game. Shut your front door. Instead, why don't you just continue to grow the game how you would see fit? Let them grow the game how they see fit. Let the players kind of go where they want to go, not willy-nilly. I do believe that, just like any other labor agreement, you can work this out and figure out how to coexist. It might not be how you like it. You might have to accept the fact that every year I'm going to have to make up my mind and where I'm going to play. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you can just shut these guys out forever.
Yeah. Nope, I agree. And it will be ironed out. They will coexist, and it will get figured out, because
I was kind of hoping for an amen there.
Oh, sorry. Amen. But anyways, that is going to bring us to the end of our show here tonight. We covered a lot. We went a little extra for you guys because we just could not stop talking about all the events going on in the golf world right now. And soon, before you know, we are going to have some PGA events back. We're going to have Chicago for the LIV coming up, like I said, in 2 weekends from now. So we're gonna continue covering all of it for you, because this is a golf podcast on a PGA only podcast. We just cover golf because we want to grow the game of golf, and we want to grow the game of golf here in New England. We want to grow with all of you. Check out Piper Golf. Check out our newest sponsor or affiliate, Mala Brothers. All of it, great products, all products that the two of us are going to use. We will see you next week here on Divots and Pivots every Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. Have a great night, everyone.